Hi everyone, welcome to Val Fashion's YouTube channel. My name is Eunice. So today we're going to be learning how to make a kimono with a bishop collar. Okay, so if this is your first time of stopping by my channel, please do not hesitate to subscribe, put on the notification bell so that I get notified. And if you enjoy this video, please also share it, of which I know you're going to enjoy it. So we're going to be making a kimono. This is the main fabric, and then this black I'll be using it to combine the kimono. Okay, so to get started, I'll be folding my fabric into two, and I'm going to be drafting my back, and then we'll use the back to adapt the front. So to determine the amount of fabric to fold, I'll be using the hip measurement of my client to fold this kimono. Remember, it's a gown, so the hip measurement of this client is the biggest part of her body. Okay, so it is either the bust or the hip. In this case, it is the hip. So the hip of my client is 47 inches. So 47 divided by 4, that will give me 11 and 3/4. So I'm going to fold 11 and 3/4 plus 2 inches for my sewing allowance. Okay, so I'll fold it and show us what to do. So I've placed my fabric on fold, and I've marked my shoulder line, which is the starting line. This is my waistline, the hip line, and then the full length. The length of the fabric is the full length of my client. Okay, so her length is 57. So now I have my shoulder line, and I'm going ahead to mark 3 inches, 8 inches. This is to create my shoulder slant. The actual shoulder measurement I'm working with, you can see I marked 3 inches, 8 inches, which is the standard to get my shoulder slant. So now I will now go ahead and enter her shoulder measurement proper. Her shoulder measurement is 16. 16 divided by 2, that's 8. So which is exactly on the standard. Then I'll go ahead and add ½ inch for sewing allowance. That's for attaching the sleeve. Okay, so now it's time for me to enter the chest line, which is also the armhole line. So we're going to be using the bust. The bust divided by 6 plus 1.5 will give me the chest line. So my client's bust measurement is 39. 39 divided by 6 plus 1.5 will give me 8 inches. So I'll mark my 8 inches here. So take note, I'm placing my tape from the shoulder slant. So here is my 8 inches. So I'll come back here on this 8 inches mark to reconfirm my 8.5 that I have here. This is just to give me a straight line. So I'm gonna have to connect it like this. Okay, so now I have my chest line, the waistline, the hip line, and then the full length. So I'll go ahead to enter my measurement. The bust divided by 4 will give me 9 3/4. So here is my 9 3/4. The waist divided by 4, her waist is 34, divided by 4, that's 8.5. So here is my 8.5. The hip is 43. Initially I said her hip was 47. No, it's 43. So 43 divided by 4, that's 10 3/4. So, and then at the hem here, I'm going to be adding 3 inches to whatever I have at the hip measurement. I'm not talking about sewing allowance yet, okay? So I'm going to be adding 3 inches to whatever I have here to the hem. So I have 10 3/4. So when I add 3 inches to it, I have 13 3/4. Okay, so I'm going to connect my markings. Okay, then I'll connect it all the way down. Okay, so having done this, I'll go ahead and add my sewing allowance. I'm using the sewing allowance of 2 inches. So 1 inch will be for ease, and then 1 inch will be for my actual sewing. I'll be sewing on 1 inch. So I'm marking 2 inches, 2 inches, and then I'll mark it all the way down also. So I'll connect my markings. Okay. So now I have my sewing allowance. So now I'll come to the armhole to create the armhole curve. Okay, I'll get the midpoint of my armhole, which is 8 inches. The midpoint is 4 inches. So I have 8 inches, the midpoint is 4 inches. So on this midpoint, I'll go in by half of an inch. Yeah, so you can see, and then I'll also go in by 3/4 of an inch. This will be for my front armhole. Okay, half inch for the back and then 3/4 of an inch for the front armhole. So now this half inch I have here, which is for the back armhole, I'm going to connect it to the shoulder tip here, and then I'll bring my curved ruler, my armhole curve, and connect the armhole to the bust measurement here. Can you see? It stopped at the actual bust measurement, not on the sewing allowance. I curved it to this point. Okay, so now I'll also go ahead and connect this 3/4 inch here back to the shoulder line, and then I'll also create the curve. This is because I'll be using this same piece now that I'm going to cut out to also cut out my front. So just let's have it at the back of our mind that we're drafting for front and back. I will use this and adapt it into my front piece. All I need to do is to just go in after I've cut out the back. I'll go in and retrace the front armhole. I hope that makes sense. So now the neckline I'm going to use, I'm using a neck width of 3 inches. Since I'm going to make a bishop collar, so you need your neck width to be as narrow and as close as possible. So what you can do, you divide the bust measurement by 12 to get the neckline, that the neck width and neck depth you'll be using for your bishop collar. So when I divide 39 by 12, I'll have 3.3 or thereabout. So I'm going to be using 3 inches for my neckline, or for the neckline. Okay, so mark 3 inches, and then I'll go down by half inch. This is for the back neckline. So this is for the back neckline. So for the front neckline, I'm going to be using 3 by 3. So I'll just come here too and mark the front neckline. So this is just what you can do. Can you see how I'm curving it? So you can use your curved ruler. You can use your armhole curve to create the neckline like this. So now we have drafted it out. So right now I'll be cutting it out. I'll be cutting on the back markings before I place and get my front. So this is my front back neckline here, and then I'll come here, cut the back armhole. So I'll also go ahead and take out the shoulder slant. So here we are. So I'll cut all the way down. No go pause. So after cutting it out, I'm gone ahead to place my fabric to cut out the back. Remember I said I'll be using it to cut out the other part. So take note, this part is on fold and this is on fold. So I'm just going to trace out exactly the same thing, and that will be my back piece. Then I'll go ahead and adopt this one that is on top into my front piece. Okay, so I've cut out the second piece. Okay, take note that when I was cutting the front, the head, that's the shoulder, was here. Now you can see I turned it to this side. So because if this part that is the shoulder, if this part was the shoulder, of course the down part is wider. So it just has a way of saving your fabric. That is why I now turned my hem to this side in order not to waste my fabric. I hope we understand. This part that had the shoulder was smaller. So of course the fabric we're going to have here will be wider. So that is why I turned the down part to this side in order to save my fabric. Okay, so now I'm going to take off this one that is under. So now this will serve as my back piece, and then we'll treat this as the front piece. Okay, so now we'll go ahead and cut out our neckline and then our armhole. Okay, so here we're cutting out a neckline, and then we'll go ahead to cut out the armhole. So now this is now the front piece. Okay, so remember I said I'll be using the combination of the black fabric I showed us. So I'm going to have like a button overlap here in the center front here, and then I'll also have a collar. So I'm combining it with my black fabric. So what I'll be doing, I'll come to this center front here, and then I'll go in by 1.5. I'll be cutting out 1.5. So I'll mark 1.5 and go in by 8. Okay, so I've marked my 1.5. So I'll be cutting out this 1.5. Okay, but I'll be leaving half inch for my sewing allowance. So that is why I will cut. This is my 1.5 mark. So I'll come here, I'll come out by half inch. This is for joining the black piece. So just call this a like a placket that will be in front, but it will go all the way down. So can you see? This is my marking here. I have my half inch for sewing allowance. Okay, so this is because it's on my fabric. So just assume that I'm cutting out my 1.5. So this half inch will be for joining them together. Okay, so now that I've cut out this, so I'll bring in my black fabric and fold. But before folding it, I'm going to measure the length I have here. So from the hem here, I have the length of 55 inches. That's up to the neckline. Can you see? This is 55 inches long. So I'm going to place my black fabric on fold and show us what to cut out. Fabric that will be replacing it, I've marked out, I've folded 2.5 inches. Okay, so let me explain this part. Remember that this is my actual front piece. Remember that we cut exactly what we needed, and I cut out 1 inch from it. I left half inch for my sewing allowance. What this means is that by the time I take that half inch, I'm going to have that by the time I sew that half inch out, I'm going to have a shortage of 1.5. That's what it means. I'm going to lose 1.5. So in order to replace back my 1.5, this needs to be 2.5. So I'm using my 1.5 to replace it back. So this half inch, this 1 inch I have left is going to be half inch from this, half inch from this. So it will replace back my 1.5. So that extra 1 inch is my sewing allowance. I hope we understand what I'm trying to say. I have removed, I'm going to lose 1.5. So this is my 1.5. The remaining 1 inch that I have here, because I have 2.5, I'll be using it to join the main fabric and this black fabric together. So of course, if I'm sewing them on half inch together, I'm going to lose 1 inch. So that is why I have 2.5 here. So I'll cut this out. So I need two of this. I'll cut this out and cut the second one out because one will be on the left and the other on the right. My pieces, you can see I cut it on fold and I have two of them. Don't mind the water on my table. It's from my iron. So I cut out two of them. So now this is what I'll be doing. This is the wrong side of my fabric. So I'm going to place, this is the wrong side and this is the right side of my fabric. So I'm going to place this piece of fabric like this. So I'll just go up half inch upwards from the neckline, and then I'll sew this on half inch, which is my sewing allowance, or which is the sewing allowance I did. I'm going to join this on half inch all the way down to the hem. So by the time I'm done, this is what I should have. So I'll do the same thing on the other side too. I'll sew the piece of fabric to the opening, okay, to the center front there. I'll do that, okay, and then I'll go ahead. I've already cut out my sleeve. I have a basic sleeve, it's a long sleeve. Just in case you don't know how to cut your basic sleeve, I'll be dropping the link in the description box so that you can check it out. It's just the basic sleeve, long sleeve, okay? All right. So I've gone ahead to sew my black fabric, so which is, you can actually refer to it as your placket. So I've gone ahead to attach it, and I've also attached my sleeves. Okay, I went ahead to hem my sleeve before attaching it. So this is what we have. So this is my sleeve, and then this is my placket. So now it's time for us to cut the collar. Okay, so to cut my collar, you see I placed my the kimono on fold. So I'll be measuring the neckline. So this is from the center back to the front here. So everything I have here is 10 inches, and then on fold that means 20, because what I have here is 10 inches, and considering that it's on fold, let me measure it well please. So I'll measure from here to here. I have 10 inches. So can you see that? So 10 inches is what I have here. 10 inches is what I have here. So now, to that means, and it's on fold, so that means when it is open, it's 20 inches I'll have. So to cut my collar, I'm going to place my black fabric on fold. This is what I'll be using for the collar. Okay? So I'm going to place my black fabric on fold. I'll be drafting directly on my fabric. Okay? So I'm going to cut out a piece of fabric. Since I already know what I'm looking for 20 inches. I'll be adding a sewing allowance of half inch to both sides. So everything I'll be looking for, I'm looking for 21 inches. I have 20, so 21 inches will give me extra half inch on both sides. So I'll mark it and cut it out and show us what to do. Okay, so now this is the fabric I'll be using for my collar. Okay, so I just went ahead to cut this because the black fabric is really big, so I don't want it dragging, that's the weight dragging it down. So that's why I just went ahead to cut out what I need. Okay, so now I'll place my fabric on fold like this, and then so that we can draft our collar proper. Can you see this part is the open side? So this is the part that will be on the front side of the neckline. That's the center front, and this will be my center back. Okay, so from this center front, I'll go up. See what I have here. I have 3.5, but this is not my measurement. I'm going to use this to cut out what I want and then throw out the rest. So on this side, I'll go up by 1 inch. You can do 1 inch depending on how deep the neckline is. You can even do half inch. So if the neckline is not deep, let's say it's a neckline of 2 inches, half inch will be fine, but I'm using a neckline of 3 inches, so I'm just going to go up here by 1 inch. Okay, we'll understand why I'm doing this. So now, having gone up by 1 inch here, I'll come here and get the center of my, remember that we're cutting, the amount of fabric I placed on fold was 21 inches. So now that is on fold, that's 10.5. So I'm placing my tape here to get the center. So by folding into two, now I have my center. Okay, so the next thing now to do is to bring my ruler, and then I'll curve it to this point. I got the center of my fabric, which is 5 1/4. I marked it. I went up by 1 inch at this opening here. So I'm just going to curve it now this way. Okay, so do you see that? So this is going to be the lower part of the collar. This will sit on the neckline. So now I'll go ahead and enter my markings. I want to have a collar of 1 inch when I am done, but of course I need half inch to join the down part, and I need half inch to turn the upper part, so that will leave me with 1 inch. So that means I'm marking 2 inches. So from here now, I'm going to mark 2 inches in length. Okay, can you see that? So I'll mark my 2 inches. I'll mark my 2 inches. I'll mark my 2 inches. So can you see that I have a slanted line? My line is not straight. This is because of this, or a curved line. Let's call it a curved line, whatever it is. So can you see? So it is not straight. So this is going to be the down part of my collar, and this is going to be the upper part of my collar. So from this part here, this upper part of the center front, I'll just come down by half of an inch. Can you see that? And then I'll curve it. So you can use your curve, armhole curve to create that curve. But I'm just using my free hand and I like what I have already. So I'll just go ahead and cut it out like this. So can you see that? And then I'll come here and just follow this curve like this. So here we are. So this is my collar. So let's open it up. So I have two pieces of this. One will serve as the lining and one will serve as the main fabric. So right now I'm going to iron my gum stay to this collar. Okay. So I'll be using the hard gum stay. This is so that this collar will stand firmly. So I'll be using the hard gum stay. I'll bring it out and iron it and show us. So here is my gum stay. So this is what I'll be doing. This is the hard gum stick. This is what I want to use. Okay. So, and I'm going to just be applying it on one of it. That's why I'm using the hard gum stick. So in case you are using the lightweight gum stick, please, you can double place your gum stick on the two. So, but this is because I'm using hard gum stick. I'm going to place just on one. Okay. So I'll go ahead to cut it out like this. Okay. So I haven't cut out my gum stay. I'm going to be ironing it to the fabric. The gum still has this fusible part, this shiny part has the gum. So once you use your steam iron or your normal iron to press it, it just holds it down. So this part I'm applying my gum steel will be the one that's the front side of my collar. This will serve as the lining. So I'll bring in my iron and press it. So I've ironed my I've ironed my gum stay to it. So can you see? And I went ahead to fold half inch. Remember I said I was going to be using half inch to sew. So can you see I'm left with just 1.5. So this is the part that will be the outer collar. This is the side we're going to see outside. So now I'm going to just place my lining, that's the lining of the collar, good side, that's right side facing right side, and then I'll take it to my sewing machine. Take note, I only folded the one that is going to serve as the main collar. I hope that makes sense. I folded the one that is going to serve as the main collar. So I'm going to take this now to my sewing machine and then I'll sew it this way. That's also on this curve, half inch round up to this point. Starting from here, I'm not going to touch this place. I'll be leaving out this place. I'll be starting from here like this and sew all the way to this side, leaving the half inch that makes this one longer. I hope that makes sense. So I'll do that and come back and show us. Okay, so I've gone ahead to sew my collar. Can you see? I've sewn it to the curved shape, and you can see that I left my half inch, which is for the sewing allowance for my lining. So now what you need to do is to notch the curved places. You can cut really close so that it allows it to turn neatly and flat. Okay, so can you see me what I'm doing? So I'm trimming my sewing allowance out. So now the next thing to do is to turn this collar inside out. Can you see? So you want to just use your scissors to push it out. Just be careful so that you don't tear your collar. Okay, so having brought it out, I'm going to iron it now. I'm going to make sure to iron it and make sure that it's flat. Can you see what I'm doing? So you make sure to push out everything like this. So I'll bring in my iron and press it once. So I have this pressing wood. So as I'm ironing, I'll be placing the pressing wood on it. So it just has a way of keeping it intact and making your ironing look really neat. I'm done ironing my collar. Can you see? So you can see my sewing allowance here. Can you see? And then you can see this part is shorter. So now the next thing to do is to bring in my dress, that's the kimono. I'll get the center. I get the center, that's the center back, and then I'll notch it. And then also fold my collar into two, or the collar into two, and then notch it also. So I'm going to place this collar. So the essence of notching is so that I can place it correctly. So now take note of what I'll be doing. This is the wrong side of my of the kimono. So I'm going to place, remember that one of them doesn't have the gum stay, okay? So this one that doesn't have the gum stay, remember I said it will be the lining. So that will be the part that will be faced inside, that will be inside on the wrong side. So take note of how I'm pinning it. So I'm pinning it on the wrong side. So I'll come here too and pin this point, and then pin this point also. Because remember, we already took our measurement, so it's exactly what we are looking for. Can you see that? So you just want to pin so that it doesn't shift. So now, the next thing to do is to take it to my sewing machine and sew this part, only this part. So when I'm done, I'll now show us how to turn this over to cover up the kimono, the neckline. So I've sewn the collar, okay, so you can see. So now the next thing to do now is to turn this collar. Remember it was like this I sewed, so I'll turn it in like this. This is for you to tuck in all your seam allowance. So you just want to make sure that you push every rough thing inside. So can you see? I'm going to pin this point. So can you see what my collar looks like? It's matching up here. So you come here also, make sure that you tuck in all your seam allowance, and then you pin. You do this all the way to this end, that's to the end of, to the other end, that's make sure that you pin everywhere around. Okay, so I'm going to just pin everywhere and then show us what collar down. Can you see what it looks like? So now take it to my sewing machine and I'll sew very close to the tip here. So now there's this sewing trick for collar that makes your collar balance where you don't want one to be longer than the other. So you can just start from here like this and then sew to like 4 inches. So from here to here, let's stop and then flip it to this side and then sew all the way to meet the previous stitch. This just has a way of making your collar balance well. It's not like if you sew this way all the way straight down, it will not balance. It will be okay, but you need to be very careful because it has a way of just sticking out from this side, so you need to balance it up. So to avoid that trouble, just sew from here to 4 inches and then come back and sew from this side, so this way your collar is even with your, that's with this piece of fabric, that's straight, okay, with your placket. So I'll go and do that and come back and show us. Okay, so this is what we have after top stitching my collar. Can you see how beautiful and neat it came out? This is the right side and this is the wrong side. Can you see my collar is sitting really nicely? Okay, so then I went ahead to shape this dress. Remember that I added 2 inches for my allowance. I said 1 inch was for ease, or is for ease, and then 1 inch is for my sewing allowance. So I sewed on 1 inch all the way from the sleeve, can you see, to the hem. Okay, and I also repeated the same thing on the other side, as you can see. Then I went ahead to fold, so you can see my hemming allowance. I hemmed the bottom. I hem the bottom with 1 inch. Okay, so that is it for the kimono. So the next thing to do is to press it nicely and then wear it on the mannequin so that we can see it. So for this kimono, there's something else I want to mention. You can decide to fix a button around here, okay, just so that it overlaps around the neck area like this before it opens, and you can still decide to leave it open. So in my case, I think I'll just fix one press button like this here, so that it gives the neckline that nice fit around there. So just fix one press button and then leave it that way. And you can still decide to fix your normal buttons, not just press button, normal buttons with buttonholes up to this point, okay, so that it can now fly. So this is just at your discretion. So I'm going to iron it and then wear it on the mannequin so that we'll see the outcome. I hope you enjoyed making this video with me. Please kindly give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and do not forget to put on the notification bell so that you get notified whenever I post a new video. And also don't forget to share with your friends. See you in my next one.